The world never knew how close it came to losing one of its most influential figures. How silently history nearly rerouted itself through a single bullet fired from a distance no one could trace. It began with a whisper inside an encrypted channel, a signal too perfect, too clean, too precise to belong to amateurs. Somewhere within the machinery of global politics, a ghost was moving, unseen, disciplined, patient. An assassin hidden so deep inside a foreign state that even those who trained him believed he no longer existed. Before the shot was fired, before the world paused without knowing why, a small team inside the CIA detected something that shouldn't have been there. A lone anomaly buried inside routine communication traffic. Nothing loud, nothing obvious, just a digital heartbeat where silence used to live. From that single trace, an entire operation was born. The race against an invisible killer began long before anyone outside Langley could sense danger, and the stakes were nothing less than a geopolitical catastrophe waiting to unfold. Inside the counterintelligence wing, fluorescent lights hummed over analysts who lived more with screens than sunlight, tracking patterns others overlooked. They were trained not to search for what was visible, but for what was missing. In early winter, during a routine SIGINT sweep, a fragment of metadata looping across an Eastern European server triggered a soft alert. It wasn't content. Content was encrypted beyond break. It was rhythm. Timing, repetition, and code that resembled communication of a sleeper operative awakening. The file was tagged and archived, but with each passing week, it appeared again through different routes, hopping through dark networks like footsteps across fresh snow. To the untrained eye, meaningless noise. To a seasoned intelligence mind, it was the breathing pattern of someone preparing, someone waiting. No chatter about weapons. No financial movement. No travel. Only silence and a heartbeat. Weeks passed and the signals began to tighten, shorter transmissions. Dead drops of digital keys left in hidden directories, steganographic markers inside harmless images. The CIA didn't know who nor where, but they knew this. A professional assassin was awake and operational. The fear in situations like this is not what is known, but what isn't. A deep cover asset trained to operate alone leaves no trail. No accomplices to interrogate, no network to monitor. Just a target selected somewhere in the future, one trigger pull away from geopolitical collapse. The agency moved quietly, forming a task force not under any official name, funded through classified reserves with personnel hand-picked for their discretion. Cyber analysts, field operatives, psychological profilers, one retired handler who once worked on black-budget projects involving off-the-record assets. Together they would hunt a ghost that didn't want to be found. As discovery expanded, the task force traced the hidden communication keys to safe servers linked to diplomatic trade files, a perfect camouflage. Behind friendly meetings between governments, someone was preparing coordinates, weather patterns, and motorcade schedules. However, none were complete, like puzzle pieces scattered intentionally to avoid detection. Surveillance satellites observed nothing unusual, yet pattern-matching AI flagged micro-movements across borders, forged passports quietly registered in transit hubs. Hotel rooms booked last minute under identities that disappeared within hours. A single man traveling through cities without leaving a footprint. Analysts named him Spectre, not for theatrics, but because he moved like absence itself. They didn't know his real name, only that he was trained, precise, and patient, qualities only possessed by assassins groomed for political eliminations at state level. As evidence grew, urgency surged. Senior CIA official authorized deeper infiltration. Sleeper informants were nudged awake in embassies abroad. Satellite orbits recalibrated by inches to monitor rooftops instead of roads, and cyber teams drilled into closed networks with tools not meant for public record. What they discovered chilled even hardened veterans. Spectre's target wasn't a criminal nor a general, but a figure whose death would ignite global unrest. A reformist leader scheduled for a summit meant to stabilize a volatile region. His assassination would not end a life. It would end peace talks decades in the making. War would follow not by chance, but by design. Someone wanted chaos. Someone invested in conflict more than stability. At this stage, CIA had suspicion, but lacked confirmation. They needed location, timeline, method, the trinity of assassination. Failure in any one meant the shot would fire, and history would bleed. Through covert signals drifted across darknet auctions. Analysts intercepted a microtransaction connected to a weapons broker notorious for selling custom rifles with built-in cleaning ports, favored by professionals who leave no ballistic trace. From that, a lead emerged. Shipping container, disguised as agricultural supplies, was flagged entering a coastal port. It was clean on paperwork, but a heat signature scan revealed a false wall. Inside, dismantled components of a long-range modular rifle awaited assembly. No fingerprints, no serials. Only intent. Spectre was preparing for the final move. Field agents were deployed quietly, blending as tourists, diplomats, conference staff. Hundreds of eyes scanned crowds, hotel lobbies, rooftops, but they weren't looking for a nervous figure. They searched for someone who did, and look at anyone. Professional killers don't stare. They observe through reflections, through shadows, through windows. One night a drone captured footage of a man on a high-rise balcony, assembling something metallic with gloved precision. It's not fast, not sloppy, slow, methodical. Every part placed like ritual. Footage was grainy, the angle imperfect, but the rhythm of movement matched archived training signatures of a known Black Ops defector, a man once trained by a foreign state to eliminate political figures and then erased from records when he disappeared. Experts recognized the muscle discipline instantly. Spectre had a real name, long buried. The CIA response shifted into final phase. They couldn't arrest him publicly. Doing so would reveal intelligence methods, spark diplomatic scandal, and risk exposing covert assets. A silent neutralization was required. Cyber teams attacked his communications, feeding false motorcade schedules to mislead him. Signals intelligence jammed his remote spotter feed. Undercover assets in the summit venue subtly altered window alignments and changed motorcade entry routes without public notice. The world outside continued normally, oblivious to the silent war happening above their heads. Spectre adjusted, recalibrated, moved buildings twice. He was adapting a sign that he sensed the hunt. A cornered professional grows sharper, not desperate. Time was dissolving. On the morning of the summit, heavy fog rolled across the city,
predicted by weather models,
creating perfect cover for both assassin and defenders. Spectre positioned himself inside a half-renovated building with sightlines to the venue. He had already removed sections of wall to fit the rifle's full length. Through his scope lay the one moment history could pivot. The CIA watched through a micro-drone perched inside a rusted beam, invisible to naked eye. They couldn't fire, couldn't strike without provoking international disaster. Instead, they executed a contingency planned weeks earlier, a silent strike at the weapon itself. As Spectre aligned crosshairs, the rifle jammed, a fractional misalignment caused not by mistake, but by deliberate sabotage. During shipping interception, CIA technicians swapped internal springs with identical replicas calibrated to fail under final assembly conditions. The assassin paused, recalculated, tried to adjust a momentary break in rhythm. Enough for an unmarked van to stop beside the building. Its two operatives ascended stairwells silently. Spectre sensed intrusion, abandoned the rifle, attempted escape through maintenance shafts. But the exit was already sealed by teams who predicted every escape vector using behavior algorithms built from his previous operations. They never aimed to capture him alive. Too dangerous, too much risk if he spoke under pressure. A controlled confrontation was inevitable. What followed was 8 seconds. No longer than a breath between tension and resolution. Spectre turned a corner. A suppressed round cut the silence. Collapsed without sound. A ghost returning to the shadows he emerged from. The world continued unaware. The leader delivered his speech. Peace negotiations moved forward. News channels reported nothing unusual. History remained intact not because of public heroes, but because of silent ones who walked away without applause. Names never printed, actions never acknowledged. The building was cleared, rifle erased, identity wiped. No file trail. Only a single classified document sealed under layers of clearance, accessible to fewer than 10 people on Earth. It stated one line that would never reach public history. Deep cover assassin neutralized. Global stability preserved, and like most victories in the intelligence world, it wasn't celebrated. It was archived, forgotten publicly, remembered only in the minds of those who carried the weight of invisible wars. In the aftermath, analysts returned to quiet rooms, scrolling through oceans of data where another anomaly might wait. Agents redeployed to fresh identities. The city resumed life, unaware that destiny had been rewritten in silence. Spectre was gone, but the lesson he embodied remained. In espionage, threats are not loud, they are quiet.
Ow.
They move slowly, secretly, until one moment decides the fate of nations. People never see the wars that never happened, only the peace they take for granted. Somewhere in Langley, a light flickered in a cold server room as archived logs were sealed. Another case closed, another ghost erased. No medals hung, no speeches made. But for those inside the invisible war, victory is the absence of tragedy. It is the silence after a threat dissolves. It is the knowledge that someone lived because someone else died without name. Intelligence work is not glory, it is burden. It is the art of preventing disaster without recognition. Deep beneath headlines lies a battlefield built from encryption keys, satellite shadows, and decisions made in rooms few will ever step into. In that world, heroes exist without statues. Their victories echo only in classified files, behind soundproof doors, forgotten by everyone except those who know how close the world came to falling. And so the story ends where it began, in silence. A deep-cover assassin, erased before his bullet could rewrite history. His mission broken by minds trained to see what others ignore. History continued unaltered not by accident, but by a silent operation that will never be publicly honored. Somewhere in the shadows, a new threat waits, and a new anomaly will one day appear on a screen, a heartbeat in the digital void, and the invisible war will begin again.